I myself, as well as Bait, has used Nicole's services to build our website. And I must say that I am very pleased with the whole experience her team and has brought. I'm very happy with the unified presentation of my company and services that they've presented and helping me in all things marketing, website, and also becoming a little more organized in my practice. So I just want to give a little shout out to our guest speaker, Nicole. And from here, she will be presenting 10 things that every website must have. And Nicole, if you'd like to complete an introduction for yourself, that would be fantastic. Nicole,
helps to unmute yourself there.
Yes, might be muted there. And then if you'd like to start recording, you're welcome to as well.
Yes, thank you. So I do have a little bit about me in here, so I'll just make my introduction be part of my presentation. Thank you for the kind introduction, Lauren. I really appreciate that. It was really great working with you on your website, and I think that we're all very proud of it. So to begin, I'm going to give you a little overview of what we'll be talking about here. So I'm going to go over kind of these 4 categories as we discuss the 10 important things that your website needs. And we'll talk about why each of these are important. And I'll use a few stats to kind of help support why they're important. And then I'll share the items that go with each that, kind of should be on your websites. So first, a little background info. It's not updating. Okay, there we go. So my career started back in Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1998, before the internet was the huge thing that it is now. It was just a little web consulting firm where I learned most of the things that I've kind of incorporated into my business today. In 2005, I moved to the Bay Area, and it was a fantastic choice. I do not regret it at all. I love it here. And then in 2008, I started my company, Smack Happy Design, as a freelancer. But by 2014, I had way too much business. So I had to start looking for contractors and teammates. And then I had to figure out how to manage teammates. So I ended up with a business coach, and she just flipped my world upside down, and I became a business owner. And the team is about 10 people or so. And we believe that the possibilities are endless. Here's a quick snapshot of the team. And we are located all over the US with 1 person in Greece. And together, we endeavor to fill the internet with unique, honest, and welcoming websites that excite and inspire. But enough about us. Let's dig in. We're going to start with the fold. So for those of you who don't know what this means, it is the part of the screen that you see when you land on a page before you scroll or do anything. So on desktop, laptop, tablets, and your mobile device, it's just that little bit of PCC there. And we usually call this the section where you can see the image, the hero section, or at least that's what I've historically called it. There are many names for it, but we'll call it the hero today. So that's what the fold is. And the fold is important because it's all about the first impressions. You have typically 5 seconds to capture your audience's attention before they're hitting the back button. 94% of impressions are design related and formed within 0.05 seconds. People are making choices really quickly about whether or not they're in the right spot. 66% of consumers think transparency is one of the most attractive qualities in a brand. And 75% of consumers admit to making judgment on a company's credibility based on their website design. So all of this to say that whatever you have above the fold when someone lands there is really important as to whether or not they're going to stick around and keep interacting with your website. So let's talk about a couple of things that you can do here to help cover that first impression. The first thing on our list is what you do. You want to put very simply in that hero section, clear messaging that says what you do so that they know if they're in the right spot or not. And you might notice that this is Lauren's website that we made for her. So if it isn't clear and easy to understand what you're doing, when someone comes here, they're hitting the back button. The second thing on our list is having a clear call to action. And in most cases, we want to have a button here in the hero section that really stands out. So it's easy to find and very obvious. And you want it to lead to that number one action that your customer is coming to the website for. So this is actually Lauren's husband's website, and he sells equipment. And so when people come here, most likely they want to see the listings of the equipment. So we're making it easy, and we're getting them straight to what they want when they land on this site. And then the third thing, this is not, come on, change the page. Here we go. The third thing is contact info. We usually want to put that in the top right corner. That's where people are going to go to look for it. And you want to have your phone number listed, or an email address, or a contact link, something that helps the person get in touch with you very easily and right away. Because 44% of website visitors will leave a company's website if there's no contact information or phone number. You want to let people know that you want to talk to them, right? So make it easy, make it obvious. Now let's talk a little bit about usability. It's the measure of how well a specific user in a specific situation can use a product or design to achieve their goal effectively, efficiently, and satisfactorily. In other words, don't make me think, which is actually the title of a book by Steve Krug, written back in the early 2000s about web usability. And a lot of his principles still stand very strong today. And this is actually the overarching rule of his book. It's the law number 1, don't make me think, which refers to every time a user has to pause, even for a split second, to think about something, it's distracting him or her from the actions you want them to take on your website. So the goal is to make your website effortless to use, make it self-explanatory and self-evident. So the user just gets it and they don't really have to think as they're interacting with your site. So let's go through a couple of stats to help support this. 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to a site after a bad experience. Mobile devices were projected to comprise 63% of global internet use by the end of 2019. And I'm sure that number has gone up, and it's just going to keep going up because we're all getting so used to just doing things on our phones while we're watching TV or standing in line somewhere. We're just kind of getting stuff done or entertaining ourselves, right? Nearly 8 in 10 customers would stop engaging with content that doesn't display well on their device. So all of this to say that the usability matters, people care, or they're, again, just going to be hitting that back button, right? So the fourth item on our list is your navigation. Make it conventional. You know, if it's on desktop, you want to have it across the top. That's very, very common these days. That's where people expect to find your navigation. And if it's on mobile, you want to have that little hamburger menu. People are also very used to looking for that, which is going to open out the menu, and hopefully that those words will be big enough for people to actually read on your mobile device. But aside from making sure that you're putting the menu in the places that people expect, you also want to use the right words. Use conventional words. If I'm coming to this Gray, Bowen, Scott site, I'm looking for services or careers or contact. If they were to use the word rock stars instead of who we are, and I was here on the site and trying to figure out who they are, there's no way I would think to look under rock stars to find out more about the people who work at Gray, Bowen, Scott. So stick to convention, because that's what people are looking for when they land on your website. The fifth item on our list is responsive and adaptive pages. So this is, from going from desktop to the laptop to tablet to the phone, like making sure that that information adapts no matter how big the screen size is, and the information will flow. So like squares that are going across, they end up stacked on mobile, things like that. But also you want it to load quickly. So on a desktop, I might have a huge hero image, right? Really big, because we have these retina displays that show very crisp images. So you're going to end up with a large photo, but there's no reason to also load that gigantic photo on a mobile device because the screen is so much smaller. So making sure that you're using the right image sizes for the right screen sizes is going to help with loading your pages. All right, and now onto the technical stuff, which I'm sure all of you are going to be on board with here: security and maintenance. I think we all believe very much in these things. So a few stats here. Again, Google has been using HTTPS as a ranking signal since 2014. So whether or not you have that HTTPS is going to factor into where you show up in the results on Google. So it has an effect on your website ranking. And 85% of online shoppers will avoid unsecure websites. So if they land on a site that has the mixed content or it doesn't have HTTPS, they're going to hit the back button because they're getting that scary red screen or that scary warning that says, hey, you might not want to go to this page. 39% of the internet is made of WordPress. 39%. That number is huge. It keeps going up, and it means that WordPress is a target for hackers because it's so popular and sometimes kind of easy to break into. And the reason is that 52% of WordPress vulnerabilities are due to WordPress plugins. So let's talk about the two things here that we want to have on our websites. The first one is that SSL certificate. So making sure you have that little green lock. It's going to help your users feel safe when they land on your website. It's going to help your Google ranking. And if they're submitting any information through your website, it's also going to be secure. There are some free SSL certificates out there. I think Let's Encrypt is a free version. So it's also easy to obtain because you can get it for free. And the seventh item on our list is, and then this is not, again, it's delayed. Okay, here we go. Maintenance. Especially if it's WordPress, you want to make sure that you're updating WordPress itself and the plugins, hopefully weekly, if not weekly, monthly, because they will pop up with vulnerabilities and they can get hacked. And typical maintenance package can also include some of these other things. This is a snapshot from what we offer: daily malware scanning, database backups, monitoring uptime. These are pretty standard for WordPress maintenance packages if you were to go out and get that from somebody. So the last thing on our list is trust, which is kind of the bottom line for whether or not someone is going to use your services or buy your product. So a few stats on that. 8 out of 10 consumers say they need to be able to trust a brand in order to buy from them. 92% of people said that they read testimonials when considering a purchase. That number is pretty high. 73% of consumers cite customer experience as an important factor in their purchasing decisions. And 77% of consumers buy from brands who share the same values as they do. So this is all about people and their experiences. And all of these things are going to help build trust. So let's talk about 3 things, the last 3 on our list, that will help you get closer to building that trust with your website visitors. The 8th thing on our list is proof. You want to get some testimonials, write some case studies, gather statistics, because the more people can see others using your services, loving your services, they're going to want to jump on the bandwagon and join in, because you're removing the risk by showing that others have used your services. Now for testimonials, ideally you want to get some onto a third-party service in your customer's actual words. So getting reviews on Google, getting them on Yelp or some other service. And then you want to also copy it and put it on your own website. And I actually have a process for gathering testimonials. So if anyone's interested, just shoot me a message and I can share that process with you. But you want to get that proof onto your website. And then the 9th thing on our list is privacy. I'm going to start with this little cookie banner here. Even though a lot of us probably don't meet the CCPA requirements, everyone's getting used to seeing these little cookie banners and being asked whether or not it's okay to share cookies. So it's becoming a part of the trust that, okay, if I'm showing you this, that means that I care about your data and I care about your use of my website, which is the same thing with the privacy policy and terms and conditions. In some states, I think these things are required, but either way, they are very good to have. They help protect you and they help protect your site visitors. So these are all going to help build on that trust with your users. And the 10th thing on our list is some information about you. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, share who you are, share your story, put a name and a face behind what you're selling, because oftentimes people are sold on what you're offering because of who you are and what you stand for. And honestly, it feels a little suspicious when there's little to no information about the person on a company's website. So make sure that you share what you stand for and what your story is, and that's going to help you really connect with people. So to summarize the list of 10 things here, we've got what you do, put it front and center, make it clear, make it obvious. A clear call to action, put that button front and center again. Lead your customers right to what they're coming there for. Don't make them think, right? The contact info, make it really easy to find, make it easy to get in touch with you. And the navigation, stick to conventions, put it on the top, put the little hamburger menu on there, and use words that people are familiar with, words that people are looking for. Responsive and adaptive pages, you want to make sure that, no matter how much I change this browser size, it's still going to work. It's still going to be readable and usable. And then that SSL certificate, very important these days. It's really hard to, get away with a site anymore that doesn't have that SSL certificate. So very important. And the maintenance and the monitoring, you want to keep that website up and healthy and running. So keep it updated technically. And then the proof and testimonials, you want to show people that there are others using your services, that the risk can be reduced because they wouldn't be the only one out there trying to use your services. So show them what the other people think of you. And then the cookie banner, privacy policy in terms of service, show that you care about their data and that you want them to be protected. And some info about you, putting yourself out there, putting a name behind the company and really helping to connect with the users. So I'm going to put a PDF of this list in the chat so you all can download it if you want. And you're also welcome to share it with your clients if you think that it would help them out to know what these 10 things are. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Nicole. If anyone has questions, if they'd like to raise their hand in the participants, I think we can do that. Am I wrong, Mark? Can we do that in this?
I got a
Yes,
quick one.
people can do that. We can't, co-hosts can't. The host and
Okay.
co-host can't, but
Perfect. So
other
if
people
anybody
should be
has
able
a
to raise their hand.
question for Nicole, please raise your hand and then I'll call on you. Manish, if you'd like to go first.
Yes, quick question about the testimonial. I guess you mentioned about putting it on the third-party website like Google and all. Is video is a good way to get testimonial, or
Yeah.
written is the okay?
Yeah, videos are great, especially, people, they don't have a lot of time for things these days, and watching a quick little video would be way easier than reading a big testimonial. So yeah, videos are fantastic.
Thank you.
Actually, Nicole, as a tag on for his question, what platforms would you recommend primarily for this group to request testimonials on? I mean, most of us are not consumer facing, so just wanted to make sure that we're doing more of a B2B testimonial request. So which platforms would you recommend for the group?
Well, we all have a Google listing. So that is definitely like #1 easiest place for all of us because it already exists. And if it doesn't, it's just, making a couple of tweaks to like claim your business on Google. So that's a really simple and easy one to use.
Fantastic. Barry.
Yeah, so we've focused a lot on the privacy space. So one of the things we find is that marketing organizations inside of clients push back very quickly on anything that would heighten their consumers' awareness of privacy. And the cookie banner is one of those issues. We think this is a beneficial thing to do, but marketing organizations seem to be very allergic to that. How do you approach marketing organizations to talk to them about using privacy as a benefit as opposed to a negative?
Well, I make the case that I just made in the presentation now that it helps build trust with the users. That's how I would help try to sell it.
Great. Alex Rader.
Yes. Thanks, Nicole. Great presentation. Yeah, very well run meeting, Lauren. Nicely done. Nicole, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on resource pages. Like that's a common thing that, especially in our space, like we have a lot of content and stuff to share with clients and checklists and what have you. What do you think about those? And if we're going to do them, what kind of some best practices around those?
Sure. I think sharing resources is fantastic. It will help with your SEO. And then I think it also helps a lot when you're talking to prospects. And if you want to share something specific, some, piece of knowledge, it helps kind of support you as an industry leader in that area, right? So if you have this whole resource library where you're kind of building and creating content to support what you're selling, it looks really good from the customer's perspective and from Google's perspective. I would recommend making sure that it's categorized and think about some high level categories, maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 categories. And think in terms of like the words that your customers would be using. Like we all tend to get really technical. We are in technical businesses, so we get pretty technical and we use industry terms, but they're not always the same terms that our customers are using. So make sure you're also thinking of it from that perspective.
Awesome, thank you.
Deal.
Oh,
Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
I'll wait my turn. Never mind.
Okay, deal.
I'm going to take your turn, Alex. Hey, great, Nicole, this has been awesome. My question, so SEO in general, kind of what are your thoughts? Maybe any kind of quick one-liner best practices? And the second part of that question is, what is it called? Backlink or cross links, or, what are your thoughts on that? Does it work? What may be a good kind of approach or recommendation for that?
Sure. So I think the most important thing to know about SEO is that it is not a quick and easy fix. It is a long game. And when you work with someone for SEO, it's going to be at least 3 to 6 months before you start seeing results. So, if any of you are interested in it, or if one of your clients is interested in it, it will help to tell them that, this is not a quick and easy fix. You're investing in it, like you're literally investing in it, and, watching it happen and unfold, and then, making tweaks as you go. But it's a very long game. So that's, I think, one of the big common misconceptions for a lot of people, is not understanding that fact. And then for the backlinks, this is maybe a little more outside of my knowledge. I know they're important, and I know that you don't just want to have a bunch of backlinks out there willy-nilly. You need to put thought behind it. And the authority of the website that's linking back to you is going to either help or hinder your own authority. So, Google's got this huge hierarchy of like who's important and who isn't, and that's all going to factor into those backlinks.
Very interesting. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Great.
Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. I would love your comments and opinions on custom design versus templates. I know especially the last 5 years, 10 years, thanks, it appears largely to WordPress, now you can load a template up and within a day have a fully functioning designed website. So what's your comments and opinions on which direction to go?
Well, I think it depends a lot on your budget and what you're trying to achieve with the website. It is pretty easy to just go out there and spin up something. There's a lot of do-it-yourself tools out there. And if you're a small business just starting out, that's probably the best way to go, because you don't have a big budget, right? But if you're a bigger company, or you're growing, or you've got a lot of competition, you probably don't want just another templated website. You want to stand out from the crowd. So getting something that's more customized and tailored to you and your business then is going to really help you stand apart and, help connect with your customers more, as opposed to just using another templated website.
Thank you. Were there any other questions out there? Actually, I see one in chat from Alex Rader. In terms of surveys, what best practices in terms of length and style of question?
Yeah, so from what I hear, surveys are a whole art form of their own. There are definitely, certain techniques that can go into surveys. And I think it, probably depends on what your purpose is for creating the survey, whether or not you're going to make it a longer one or a shorter one. But if you're interested, I do know someone who specializes in that. So let me know and I can introduce you if you're interested, Alex.
Kyle has another question. I keep on lowering his hand.
I do have another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Nicole, back on the design of, or the topic of design, do you recommend that businesses always try to keep up with whatever the latest design trend is, because that's what consumers are seeing regularly, especially from the larger companies? Or is it better, especially from a business to business standpoint, to just choose something simple, tried and true, and just kind of stick with it for the long term?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you are and, what you're trying to sell. Some, especially here in the Bay Area, there are a lot of startups and people kind of expect a startup to look sexy and be sleek. So startups probably do want to be more on the cutting edge of design, but your standard traditional law firm, that doesn't make any sense. They're probably going to want something a little more conventional, something more tried and true. So it really depends on who you are as to whether or not that should be important.
What's the frequency of updating your website in those terms then for, I'd say, again, catered to our audience here as IT professionals?
Yeah. So I think for the companies that are really out there to impress, some of them will change out their website design every 2 or 3 years. And then for other folks, it might be more like 4 or 5 years. But anything beyond that, even the technology that was used to build the website starts to get outdated. and then you start to get into some security risks. So I think 5 years is starting to feel like a pretty old website.
Well, thank you. Last call for questions for Nicole. If something comes to mind later, please feel free to reach out to her via Slack or direct message via her email. We will post, if it's okay with you, Nicole, your presentation in our Slack channel along with your one pager, just kind of summarizing the 10 important things. Looks like I have one last question from Jay McAllister.
Yes, great job, Nicole. Very insightful. One thing that I was thinking of during your presentation, and by the way, I just realized this was not a great choice of color shirt. I know I'm like camouflage. I swear I'm actually here.
I just noticed the same thing.
Yeah,
That's
somebody
great.
brought it to my attention. They're like, "Are you there, Jay?" I am here. So it's just not a floating head talking. But Nicole, what do you think about? I know there's been in the last probably 5 years, there's been a ton of I guess for lack of a better word, I know it as a file extension, right? So like you have a .com or a .cpa or a .tech. What do you think about the legitimacy of using an unconventional, I guess, what would you call it, file extension or website extension?
Yeah, there's a specific name for that, and it's slipping my mind at the moment. Yes,
Top
like
level domain.
Go ahead.
Top level.
IO has been popping up more and more.
Yeah, there's .guru. Someone just shared a .one. All sorts of those are available now. I did an infographic for GoDaddy back when they were releasing like a huge number of them. And I think while they are a little strange to us now, as people try to get domain names, fewer and fewer are available for the .com. So I think we're just going to see more and more of the .whatevers, and we'll just get used to it over time.
Okay, so you don't think it pulls away from or takes away from your legitimacy as a company?
Well, I mean, there probably still is some of that right now. Like if you can get a .com, that is what you want for sure. But if you have no other choice, then you can go with one of the other options, and the rest of the world will catch up to it being okay eventually.
Yeah, we just changed ours to .co, and people keep thinking I left off the last letter.
Yeah. I did that. And I would try to email you one time, Dale. I'll admit that was me.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my fault for making that dumb decision.
Kyle, I see you have another question, and then I think
do.
you had one other.
All right, Nicole. So when we are either building or rebuilding a site ourselves, or we're bringing in a team to take care of it, should we be first focusing on the site from a mobile standpoint? Should that always be top of mind? And then think of desktop? Or is it still okay to think of the desktop experience first and then switch over to mobile? Or does it even matter?
I'm not sure how much it matters. I think, if your team is capable of going starting from either and then, formatting it to go with both. We tend to start with desktop still, but we're keeping the mobile in mind as we go, because we're like developers and designers. So we're just kind of magically doing it all at the same time, but in our heads, we're not doing Photoshop mockups of like both versions or anything like that.
Great. Well, thank you, Nicole. We're going to move on to the next segment of